Alright, welcome to what is, I guess the second of my videos on how to do modding in Paradox games. Now, I meant to do another video for EU3, and I still might, but since I'm onto the Victoria 2 section of it, I thought I might answer some few questions about Victoria 2. You can see here, this is my normal install, and this is my mod install. And I've got the mod install folder up here because most of the modding is just done with the text files, like most Paradox games. The basic way to do it is, for example, creating a country. To create the Celtic Union, it's basically the same thing as in EU3. You go into the Common Countries folder, and then you basically take whatever kind of country you want to use. Say, the Roman Empire, for example, which I've added to the game. I put under Common Great Powers. You might notice that I haven't put my country up here because I put it over where it should be in the text. But I was just lazy and put it this here. It doesn't really matter where you put it, but basically what's important is that you add in this 3-letter code. It could be anything that's not already taken. Like, I couldn't put ROM for Rome because Romania is already that, so I put REM, Roman Empire. I thought it was appropriate. And yeah, basically you have to route it to be whatever you want to name the country. Now, to fix out where that is, you have to route it to this, and that is in here. Basically, you just have to find whatever country you want to pick, say, well, I don't know, Byzantium, and then you want to basically make a copy of this, and then you want to rename it to whatever country you had here. So, for example, Roman Empire, you would rename it. You would rename this file to romanempire.txt. And then, for example, in my Roman Empire one, I left the Byzantium things the same. Just out of laziness, I guess. But you can change it, but that requires a bit more of work with the, what's it called? Localization, which is a pain in the ass sometimes, but it's not so bad if you have a good text editor. I find that I was using just plain Notepad for a long time, but I started using this for messing with the order of battle files, and they work a lot better. It works a lot better. New game, Notepad++. Plus, I can have a bunch of tabs with files in them open at once. So, and I don't have like Word or whatever. So, what else? Oh, here, this is what I'm looking for. As you can see, it's roughly the same. I changed the color to be a deep red, and basically left everything else the same. Oh, and I changed the order of battle doesn't matter because the game doesn't start with this country, so it doesn't really matter if it has an order of battle or not, because it will just inherit whatever country changed into it. So yeah, what else you need for that, like in EU3, you need a history file for it. Now, you don't really actually need a history file. Well, you do, but you don't need it for the reasons you might be thinking. You need it for like the names and stuff. So you basically take your tag and then put a dash and then you put your country name after it. I don't know how important this is to get this spelled correctly, but I believe it's just, you know, required. So let's find the Roman Empire thing, and again, I'm really bad at finding stuff. Okay, so basically, in here, you have the first line, which is your capital, your primary culture, which is Greek for our Roman Empire because it's based in Byzantium. They also have these as accepted cultures. Now, these two are actually added by the decision to create the Roman Empire. So yeah. And this thing basically means that because the Roman Empire has cores on a ton of places, somebody could potentially force, or because it's pop mod and they are more likely to release vassals, release the Roman Empire on its own. A lot of countries have this. The USA is this, and all kinds of stuff. So basically, it tells the AI that you can't, or you, for example, that you cannot release it as a vassal. It is not possible within the game. This is important because it marks it as civilized, so you can build factories and all that stuff. And basically, I just copy-pasted it from the Byzantine Empire one too. And then, yeah, it's basically the same thing. Exactly, yeah. This is just copy-pasted from the Byzantine thing. But this order of battle file doesn't really matter because it's not starting the game. And yeah, you can change the names of stuff in this Roman Empire.txt. I did a bunch of this for our stuff. Okay, and that's pretty much all you have to do. You have to make sure, like for example, one of the things I kept messing up with in the dead of night was not putting the txt at the end of this thing, and it will just crash the game if you don't have it there. Another thing is, surprisingly, and I guess logically, the countries are set to have a certain political reforms here. And if you set them to be a democracy, but they don't have a voting franchise, the game will crash. And, yeah, I did that with a couple of things. I was like, well, these are democracies in our timeline, so let's make them democracies. No, I have to go in and fix this. So, yeah. What else? Flags. This game has a different amount of flags than the other game. In fact, five different flags for each country. And for each of the, I guess, government types. I just made Theocracy use the monarchy flag. So, because all of the places that were supposed to be theocracies were monarchies in normal Victoria. So, let's see. Oh, and GFX, and basically there's a flags folder with a bunch of flags in it. Now, these have to be in a certain format. I use paint.net for these, and I just find the Roman Empire flag. And as you can see, they're for different types of governments, and basically the default flag, the communist flag, the fascist flag, the monarchy flag, and the republic flag. Now, this is usually the same as one of the other ones. So, and sometimes it's marked to do the one of the flags regardless. So let's try the Roman Empire flag. Now, a lot of these you can just, if you really wanted to, you could leave it blank. Just have a white flag. Or you could copy somebody else's flag. Like Polotsk, I just copy-pasted it from, that's not Polotsk, that's Poland. This is Polotsk. I just copy-pasted it from where is it? From the EU3 flag, and made the borders a bit bigger. So yeah, no real difference there. But that's not what we were looking for. We were looking for this, and this is the flag it has right now, the SPQR thing. And there's different flags for different things, but I'm going to leave those as a surprise, maybe, if they switch to those governments. This is just something I found online and skewed a little bit to fit the dimensions and all kinds of stuff. Blew up the thing, so, yeah. But basically you have to have each of these, and then you have to delete the flag files. Where's that? Where are those? These. There's a bunch of files like this. You basically have to delete them so that it will recognize these. Something else you have to do to make it, I guess, more palatable is you have to go into the localization folder, and this is probably the most pain in the ass thing. You can see there's a lot of things here that were made in the either More Countries mod, which is included in the Pop Demand mod, or the Pop Demand mod itself. So, yeah, let's look at mine, which is Untext 2. Okay, so you can see basically the format for this is, and this is from one of the other text files. It works fine, but the main text file, and you can see that they're CSVs, so you have to make sure you save them in that format. The localization files, most of these are just normal text files. But basically it's the English, French, German, and then a bunch of other stuff. I don't even know. So Spanish is somewhere in there. But most of these are even left blank in the normal localization folders. So basically, I just kind of put them in alphabetical order, starting with the country flags. And basically this tells them what to put on the different stuff for the country flag. If you leave it like that, it'll just show up as ADA on the map. For example, let's do something that I've been meaning to do. So you'll see a meaningful mod change. We should be the Celtic Union. I messed that up. So yeah, for example, these are all the custom countries you've seen in the game, and these are the only ones that exist at the moment. And then you set them up like this, and then you have to have an adjective for them. And this doesn't have 2 or 3 adjectives like in EU3 though, just one. So basically you set up, so for Andalusia, which is ADA, is Andalusian. Ours is Celtic, the Knights are Knight, or Roman Empire is Roman. And Polotsk is Polotskian, I don't know how. I looked it up on the internet and that's what it said it was. So yeah, or somewhere in one of the text files of one of the other games. I don't know. And here these are special things, and you can see that you can change what the country's name is based on the type of government. See, for presidential dictatorship, the Celtic Commonwealth, based on the English Oliver Cromwell type stuff. And if we switch to absolute monarchy, it will be the Celtic Empire. Prussian constitutionalism is the same, as these are steps back from our His Majesty's government, or Her Majesty's government, as it will be once we get Victoria, which is the same in this timeline. In the game's called Victoria, so she's going to be our queen. And yeah, all kinds of stuff. And you can actually make it so that it has different adjectives for each of the things. Like it'll change us from Celtic to Crusader if we go fascist, because it's the union of the Crusade under fascism. And I put this in the wrong place, but no, I didn't. I didn't change the country name. Okay. Below this, and the Roman Empire has various other things. Below this, I put the different, and this is how I knew that the original localization file I was using was messed up. I just actually put them in the other ones, so I took them all out and put them in other things. The names for the parties. And you can actually make as many parties as you want and stick them into the game, but you just have to make in the files here. You have to give them policies and ideologies and all kinds of stuff, and then you just put what they are called here. The Theocracy thing is relatively simple. I just made a government in common. Okay. And I went too far. Yeah, the governments thing. There we go. And basically this has all the types of governments. Theocracy is fairly similar to a monarchy, I guess it's based on Prussian constitutionalism. But I added in fascists because of the Crusader idea for the rest of us. The Knights also are switched back to Crusader mode if they go fascist. So yeah, but it has an election, and I know that they rule for life, but I just put it as a thing for 10 years, just to kind of, change the way things work, and it uses the monarchy flag. But yeah, basically it's just a slightly different version of a mix of Prussian constitutionalism and absolute monarchy. It's closer to Prussian constitutionalism because it actually uses elections. So yeah, and then you can do localization for modified decisions or events here. Now I just put them all into one text file, but some of my other modified ones are actually still within the localization because I just changed a few names or added a couple of things, which didn't mess up the text blocks. Let's actually save this because I changed that. Now what else? Oh, how to actually like make the country appear in the world. This localization stuff is not too hard if you just use a special text file for it instead of going into the other text files, like I did with EU3. I wasn't sure if it would work without routing something to it, but apparently it just works if you make another text file. And if you have like backups of other text files, you need to delete them because they will try to reference them in the game. So, you need to go into history, and in history is a provinces thing. Okay, and these are the different regions. It's very, very convenient that it's broken up like this. So let's go to something easy. Let's go to Scandinavia. Okay. And let's look at Gotland. Where's Gotland? I bet I just passed it. Gotland. Okay, here we go. Basically, at the beginning of the game, in normal game, it starts with a core of Scandinavia and Sweden. And then the owner and controller are also Sweden. And in our game, currently, it's controlled by Scandinavia, as they formed Scandinavia. Gotland, I added to the game. And basically what I did was I changed the controller and owner to Gotland. And then I basically just added the core of Sweden back in. Or I added a core of Gotland, and then I didn't change these. So, and to basically do my country and all the other countries to change the map around, I basically went into the EU3 file, looked at what I had, and then went back in to Victoria to look at what provinces were there. It was a kind of a time-consuming process, and it's basically what the basically what I wanted the converter to do for me, and then I had to do it with pops, which I will show next. I only changed the pops in my country, really, because the rest of them I either just went lazy with it and said, okay, well, I'm just going to add this as one of their accepted cultures or something. But for us, it actually does matter a little bit more, but because it's so behind the scenes for everyone else, it doesn't really matter. And if anybody's like thinks that's stupid, then I can change it, but it'll take me a long time. I basically decided not to do it for like the Papal States and North Africa and stuff because it took a long fucking time for me to do it myself. I also reactivated the Steel Factory. I don't know if this is a thing that they added in pop demand and then they disabled it, but this was disabled by hashes. If you have hashes, like say if you have this, it will ignore this. So it's a common paradox thing where they just have the hashes be ignored. But this was hashed out. I decided to reactivate it because Gotland was like a good trade republic for most of the game. So yeah, that's basically how you change the names or the who owns the files. So I didn't really change anything about that. And yeah, if you look here, and this will only work at the start of the game. After the game is started, that will not work. You actually go into the save file and do it, which is considerably more of a pain in the ass. So I didn't want to try to do the converter and then mess with everything later, because you can get a semi-stable save file out of the converter at the moment, but for me it just won't work properly. It will crash after about 2 days. It has none of the pops work properly, and there's no factories and stuff like that. But it's a work in progress, and I'm hoping they get that done so other people can do this without going through what I did. So let's look at Africa, and look at Marrakesh. Okay, Morocco's just Fez, so that's not different. But how about Cairo? As you can see here, I left the Egyptian cores on there just in case something happens and our empire gets split up into a bunch of different pieces. Pretty much everything that has cores I left on, except for in instances where I either wanted to rebalance something, add core onto it to basically instigate wars, or as simulate them having a claim on it already. Like if they had cores in EU3, I tried to add that back onto it. Like Russia lost their cores on Latvia, Lithuania, and stuff, so I put it back on. I didn't put it back on, rather. I took it off because when I made the countries, because they didn't have claims on that. They lost them in a war or something. I don't know. I kind of did that with adding the cores back onto Sweden's lands to basically make Germany try to reclaim them, so they get they can form their country, which they will try to do. They won't try to do if there's no cores there, or basically so that they will try to reclaim that and then form Germany. Because if they don't, that means they needs less provinces. Blah. Okay. That brings me to my next point, which is pops. Okay, here, this is considerably more annoying than other things. Because basically you have to know which provinces you want. Although for ones that are non-colonized, it's kind of easier because it'll tell you if they're non-colonized. So let's look at Israel-Palestine, because that's something I had to do. Basically, because this was Breton culture in EU3, I went through and I added the British culture, which is basically a stand-in for both English and Breton culture, since basically in about 300 or 400 years they've kind of fused together in an amalgam. And then I left some of these as their normal cultures and their normal religions. So for example, see here there's some Sunni Muslims. So they still do exist. I just kind of pick and choose who they were. I took most of the animists out because I don't think they would respect the rights of the animists as much. So, and then I had to change all of the pops that were slaves to either being craftsmen for appropriate in areas that should be industrialized, like Cairo and stuff like that, and some of the iron-producing centers and Nubia and stuff like that, or farmers for the areas that shouldn't have workers. So that's what I did. Basically, it's a pain in the ass. Like, you have the number, and if you have, I was looking at the Paradox Wiki, or the Victoria 2 Wiki, and like looking at what things I had, and then I listed files, a list of numbers that I had, and put them on the side, and basically just went through like that. It didn't take that long, but it was a pain in the ass and really repetitive. But for example, one of the things I kind of wanted to do, which I can't really do anything with it now, but I wanted to change England's pops to being Catholic, which I never ended up doing because I either forgot about it or decided it wasn't important. It is kind of important. But I guess it'll basically kind of, I don't know, it'll basically provide conflict between the British Isles and the rest of my empire, because the rest of my empire is staunchly Catholic. So for those who wanted to have an English Breton kind of conflict, that pretty much would do it, as well as anything else would, without directly writing events that do that. And I don't think that that's kind of appropriate. Okay. What else is there? Oh, I could do some decision stuff. Oh, another thing you can do, because of the history. You can set up alliances for diplomacy. For example, at the beginning of the game. Oh no, you can see when it's going to end. I will change that. The alliances between us, Russia, Turkey, Mongolia, Turkey and stuff. This, I don't know what this is. This is originally on the Alliance's thing, so. But they're still there. You can change the puppet states, the knights, and this is just default. It's actually set to end at a different time. I think before this. Yeah, I think it's set to end by event before this. So you set up puppet states, and that's the only one that was a puppet state, because not many people had vassals, because I broke up a lot of the things like that. And then the unions, you can have a personal union. Denmark and Schleswig-Holstein do not exist, so Denmark did exist, but Schleswig-Holstein didn't. So this didn't have any effect. So yeah, you can set up guarantees and stuff. Nothing's set up because I guess nothing is set up in the normal game, because I didn't change that file. Units is the order of battle files. Basically, you can change it to being whatever. Look at Spain's, and it will actually set the sphere of influence here rather than in any diplomacy file. So, for example, that shows that they have good relations with Mexico, and it's level 3 sphere, so they are cordial relations instead of neutral. Morocco starts with cordial. Egypt starts with lower. And these are just sphere levels. You can still be hostile with a country and have this, for example, in Egypt. And Ecuador, Peru. Basically, their old empire. They get things with, and then you can have the army files down here. Now, I believe Andalusia reads this file, so you can basically see what they start with. And then they have the Navy files down here. I did, for me, just a combination of Egypt and England as what we started with, because I felt that was the most appropriate thing. It actually reduces our numbers, because if you remember in EU3, I had a massive army, and my army was very small compared to it in this game, which means I had to rebuild my army, which is fine. But to modify this, say for example you wanted Mexico to be in their sphere, you would just, change this to being 5. And then the oh, that's what I did. I changed some of the puppets, because it was giving me a bug for puppet states, so I was changing them instead to being in sphere of influence. And I did that with a couple of countries. Like Norway was a vassal of Sweden, and I changed it to be a puppet, but apparently the bug still happened, because that was the reason I changed it to being sphered instead of puppeted, was because it didn't subsume into Scandinavia when it formed. I don't know. Okay, this is only important at the beginning of the game. This won't change anything if you change it afterwards, so I'm not going to mess with that. That's basically everything that the history files do. Decisions, that's what I was going to do. Okay, these have a lot of them in backs, just my backups, because I was changing stuff. And then this is my national unification folder. I'm not going to show that, because that's secrets. So let's look at the American Civil War files, which are these ones, because they don't actually affect us, because it doesn't do anything. Now, this is what was messing me up, and this is why I took USA out of the game and replaced them with New England, was this. Because if you have these two, which are in our game, and the USA exists and has a certain amount of prestige and a certain amount of relations, they will just join the USA, straight up. So what I did was I just took it and made it so that it was... This still exists, so if anybody is left on the map after the country forms for some reason, they will just join. And so far it's just these, but I'll add the rest of them to it. But this is only for minors, so it only really works if they are in a sphere or whatever. Or not major powers. So one of the main things that you might see, you might notice, like there's a lot of brackets here, just like all the other text files. And the hardest thing with events and decisions is basically formatting them correctly and understanding which different things. Like potential means what has to be true for this to work. So it doesn't work in our game because exists USA is not true. And then the country has to have one of these tags for it to be true. And then allow means that once these potential things are met, what also has to be true for the event to happen. So you can't be in a war, and your relations with the USA has to be 175. So yeah. And when that happens, this will automatically happen. The effect will be that the USA will get this event, which basically means that they inherit you, which means they get your country and get yours on all your provinces. And this will basically make you lose the game automatically. Like if you're playing as Hawaii for some reason, and the USA spheres you, they instantly inherit you. So that's one reason not to play as Hawaii. Plus, they're really weak. But anyway, this here is important to do if you want the AI to do something. The AI will do factor 1. Basically means the AI will always do it. And you can basically leave this blank, and the AI still might do it if it's beneficial enough. But for example, the Roman thing and the name change for Istanbul, I put as factor 1, so the AI would always do it for the more interesting thing for it. When I did it without it, they would do the Roman Empire thing, but they wouldn't do the changing of the name. So I just made it to factor 1. Okay. Something else is the effects. Now this effect is rather simple. It just causes an event to happen. But here, this sets a country flag, and country flags will affect other events. See, for example, the potential of this is we'll set the flag has King Cotton. So if you have this already, you can't have this event happen again. And you can also set events to happen only once for like historical events. And again, the allow, you have to have 500 cotton, you have to be the CSA, the Confederate States, you have to be at war with the USA, which always happens if the CSA starts. And this was not hard to get, being the Confederates. So basically you get, the effect is you gain 5 prestige, you lose 500 cotton, and any greater power who is not the USA will get the casus belli on the USA cut down to size for 2 years. Basically, this is reflecting the very non-historical King Cotton thing. The Confederates thought that their kind of monopoly on cotton would cause the other great powers to join on their side, which never happened because the English had a source of cotton, and it wasn't really that important. Plus, the USA was powerful enough that the other powers didn't really want to do that at that point in the thing. So another thing is you can make it so that you have to own certain provinces. So for example, the Trail of Tears thing, it has another thing where you have to not have a global flag, which is just basically another, like a country flag only. This basically is for the whole world. This makes it so that if the USA and the CSA exist, they can't both do this if they trade these provinces. So this also takes into effect consciousness. So basically, if you own these 3 provinces and your consciousness is 3, this event will happen, or might happen. We haven't seen something yet, but there is a thing. Though this is decisions, so these are allowing you to do it. Okay, I'm silly. But for example, this is the AI factor 1 again. So decisions are, quite simple. So this is, a different thing that I was thinking of. This is not why you will get sphered and then eaten by the USA if you're Hawaii. Okay, so now that I've kind of mix that up. Let's look at events. They basically use the same format. So let's look at a civil war again. Basically, this is what causes the civil war. As you can see, it's basically in the same format. Usually they're slightly more complex. But right here, the mean time to happen basically means, and this is set to 1, so it will happen as soon as these conditions are met. Mean time to happen basically is all events are basically random, but after a certain amount of months, they have a certain chance to happen each month based on the mean time to happen. So some of them are like 500, but have a lot of different modifiers to it to change the mean time to happen to be smaller. The smaller the mean time to happen, the more likely the event is to happen. And basically, you can get options on them. Basically, it means that I can't really see what this is, but this here will cause the CSA to secede, change the capital, and there's this is a choice, but it's not actually a choice. So this is just what will happen. I know there is an option that lets you play as the CSA when this event happens. Yeah, this is it right here. Change tag no core switch CSA, and basically this is the option that makes you play as the CSA, and this is the option that makes you play as the Union. Again, these are not really going to happen to us because well, at least it won't happen the same way, because right here is something that will probably limit it. I'm not sure if the USA will unify by 1854. Everything else is allowable, but the 1854 thing might be the problem. I might just change this to be nothing. I might take the year qualification away just to make sure, just to kind of see if I can get a civil war to happen anyway. And I'll probably make it expand in scope to at least affect more of the continent. Because as far as I know, there are three that allow slavery and 3 that don't. The Newfoundland, California Republic, and Canada do not allow slavery. And then the New England, I changed New England to allow slavery because of this. New England, Texas, and Mexico allow slavery, so maybe it'll be one way or the other. But of course, the lines in New England will still be drawn the same way. Because most likely they'll end up being the ones that will unify the continent. Although that is unclear. But one of the things you have to do is you have to change the localization. For example, you see here where it says title event name 1600, description event description 1600. Oops. These are in the localization files. So like down here, there's title descriptions, and then for events you would have numbered things. So yeah, you would just basically do the same thing with that. And there are event tags that aren't taken, so you can just add them in. So yeah, is there anything else I want to show? Let's look. Not really. Well, you can change some other stuff if you wanted, like the inventions, for example. You can change it so, for example, strategic mobility does this. And I haven't changed anything because they're balanced with the mod, and I don't want to mess with it. And I don't mess with it normally in the game because, I don't know, when I'm playing vanilla, because a lot of times you're just tempted to make it better, and that's basically cheating. I haven't messed with this, so I don't know exactly what the different things do. Well, I know what this does. And, like, this is the chance it is to happen. And this will be modified by this base if you have this. And then you'll get this once you get the thing, which basically makes your naval organization higher from your naval bases. So yeah, you just see what kind of things can happen, and like this one makes everything faster, and so forth. And you can see this one is hashed out, so this doesn't actually do anything. Yeah. Famous people. This is just other inventions that happen. But yeah, basically that's all I wanted to go over. If anybody has any more questions, feel free to ask in the comments of this video or on my channel page, or in a message to me, and I will try to make more videos answering those questions. And if anybody has any questions about EU3, I know I said I was going to make another EU3 file thing in a conversion video. This is basically that conversion video, and I will show you the where are they? EU3 LP stuff. Yeah, the picture from the end of EU3, and this is it. Make it smaller. I didn't want the open paint, but whatever. You can see here that there's an option within the game. Oh crap! That wasn't what I wanted to do. There's an option within the game to basically take a screenshot of the game as the world text file. And as you can see, that I did a lot of cleaning up. Like this is gone. You know, this is left a little bit better. I changed some of this, and then obviously I cut off a lot of Africa to be more in line with the Victoria game. Yeah, this is what the world looked like then, and what it looks like now. And a lot of this stuff, this green stuff, is Portugal, that had like thousands of rebels in it that they didn't actually control for like 100 years in some cases. Like this stuff, they hadn't controlled it in like 100 years. So I just made it so that they didn't own it before. And like down here, that's just implausible. They can't even get to that. But I tried to be as fair as possible with each country, and I probably cut the most land off of me, actually. So yeah. So yeah, you can see a little bit of a thing. See, I actually like made it so that Iceland owned my Greenland. But yeah, that's it for this, and I'll see you next time.